A very good evening to everyone. So my name is Kanageshwari Shanmugan from class TSLB. So as for today, I'm going to do a presentation on task 1 on the subject TSLB3273 English Language Awareness. So the topic for today is the importance of context in language. So let's jump into the main topic. So let's look at the importance first. The importance of context in language, an analysis of English varieties and cultural influence. Language is an intricate system that serves as a primary tool for communication, expression, and identity. However, the meanings and implications of language are not fixed. They are heavily influenced by context. Understanding context is essential for effective communication, especially in multilingual and multicultural societies like Malaysia. This presentation will explore the significance of situational and cultural context in Malaysian primary school classroom, particularly concerning the varieties of English spoken in the country. By examining how these contexts shapes language use, we can appreciate the dynamic relationship between language, cultural, and education. So, before we jump into the main topic, let's understand first context in language. So, what is context? Context refers to a circumstances surrounding a communicative act that shape its meaning. It encompasses various elements, including the physical environment, historical background, social norms, and cultural values. In a language comprehension, context play a crucial role in disambiguating meanings and facilitating effective communication. For example, consider the phrase, "Can you pass the salt?" In a casual dinner setting, it is a straightforward request. However, in a formal meeting where discussion about resource allocating the taking place, it could imply for a collaboration or a teamwork. Okay, well, so what is the role of context in education? In education setting, particularly in Malaysia, where English serves as a second language for many students, recognizing context becomes even more critical. The interplay between different varieties of English, such as British English, American English, and local Malaysian English, and also cultural nuances, can significantly affect the student's understanding and use of the language. So, the teacher must be aware of this context to create effective learning experiences that resonate with students' lived realities. So here we start with our first focus, which is situational context in Malaysian classroom. Defining the situational context. So situational context refers to a specific circumstances in which communication occurs. So these includes the factors such as the physical environmental of the classroom, the teacher's instructional methods, and the students' diverse backgrounds. In a Malaysian primary school classroom, these elements can greatly influence how English is taught and also learned. So there are two examples for situational context in Malaysian classroom. The first example is storytelling with local folktales. Consider a lesson on storytelling where a teacher uses a local folktale to engage students. The situational context here involves several key components. The first one is physical environment. The classroom setup may include various aids related to Malaysian culture. For instance, poster depicting traditional attire or illustration from local folktales can create an immersive learning environment for students and grabs their attentions. So as for the second one is teacher's approach. The teacher may choose to use a mix of standard English and local dialects to make a story more relatable. So, by incorporating familiar phrases or expressions from Malay or Chinese dialects into a storytelling process, the teacher acknowledges students' linguistic background while promoting English proficiency. So, as for the third one, students' background. Okay, so there's a lot of students are from diverse ethnics and backgrounds. As for in Malaysia, there are Malays, Chinese, and Indians may have varying familiarity with certain cultural references in the folktale. So, as for instance, while some students might recognize characters from Malay folktales like Sangkanchil, or others may relate it more to Chinese legends. The teacher's ability to navigate these differences enhance comprehension and engagement. So, the situational context not only aids in delivering context effectively but also fosters an inclusive environment where students feel valued for their cultural identities. So, by using familiar narrative that resonates students' experience, teachers can facilitate emotional connection to the material while simultaneously teaching English vocabulary and sentence structure. Okay, so the second example is classroom management strategies. So this example is another aspect of situational context involves classroom management strategies that cater diverse learning needs. As for the instance, first one is group work dynamics. So, in a classroom with the students from various linguistic backgrounds, teachers might implement group activities that encourage collaboration among peers. So, for an example, assigning mixed ability groups allows stronger English speakers to assist those who may struggle with language skills. So, the second one is use of technology. Incorporating technology into lessons such as interactive whiteboards or educational apps can enhance engagement among students who may be more visually or technologically inclined. A lesson on grammar might include a game based app that reinforces sentence structure through interactive exercises. By adapting teaching methods to suit situational contexts within the classroom, educators can create an environment conducive to learning that respect individual differences while promoting collective success. So that's all for the situational context. Now we'll focus on our next idea, which is cultural context in language learning. So the definition of cultural context is encompasses shared meanings, assumptions, and behaviors within a community. In Malaysia, a nation categorized by its rich tapestry of cultures, understanding, and cultural context is essential for effective communication in English. The diverse cultural background of Malaysian students influence their perceptions of the language use and it associates with the social norms. So, as for the cultural context in language learning, also, we got two examples. The first example is teaching greeting. When teaching greeting in English, a teacher might explain the cultural significance behind various forms of address that used in different situations. So, as for an example, the first one is formal and informal greetings. In Malaysian culture, addressing someone by their title, Encik for Mr. and Puan for Mrs. So this action reflects respect and acknowledgement of social hierarchy. A lesson on greeting might include role-playing scenarios where the students practice using appropriate forms based on their relationship with the person that they are addressing. So, as for the second one, cultural nuances. The teacher could highlight how greeting differ across cultural represented in Malaysia. Okay, for an example, while a handshake is a common in Western cultures as a form of greeting among them are business partners. Some Malaysian communities might prefer a nod or a slight bow as a sign of respect when greeting elders or authority figures. Okay, so the influence of cultural on language varieties highlights the importance of teaching both linguistic skills and cultural literacy in Malaysian classroom. So the second example is celebrating cultural festivals. Another way of cultural context influence the language learning is through celebration of local festivals. The first one is integration into curriculum. Teachers can incorporate discussion about significant cultural festivals such as Hari Raya Aidilfitri or Chinese New Year for their English learning and also English lessons. And the second one is language activities. Language activities. Students could write essay or create presentation about their experiences during festival using like English vocabulary related to food, ketupat dumplings. If it related to traditions, we can see open house and lion dance. As for the social customs, giving and po. Okay, so we already covered the main topic, which is situational context and also cultural context. So now we'll focus on varieties of English and cultural influence. Okay, so the relationship between varieties of English and cultural influence is evident in how language evolves within a different communities. In Malaysia, Manglish, a colloquial form of English, incorporates elements from Malay, Chinese dialects, Tamil, and even some Western influences. This variety reflects Malaysia's multicultural identity and serves as a medium for informal communication among the locals. Okay, as for the varieties of English and cultural influence, we got two examples to present. And I got it. Let me present. So the first one is example one, code switching. One prominent features of Manglish is code switching, where speakers alternate between languages or dialects within a conversation. So for the first one, everyday conversations. Students often switch between Manglish and Standard English depending on their audience. So, in casual conversation with peers or even family members, they might use Manglish phrases like la, ma, or one for emphasize or emotional expression. So, for example, it's like, Can I go eat, ama?" Something like that. So, X for the second one, classroom dynamics. Teachers who understand this linguistic behavior can leverage it to bridge gaps between formal instruction and informal communication styles. So, as for instance, during group discussion about current event or personal experiences, teacher might encourage students to express themselves using both Manglish and Standard English to foster confidence while gradually transitioning toward more formal language in use. So let's explore the second example. The second example is cultural references. Manglish often used in includes local expression that may not translate directly into the standard English. The first one is understanding local expression. Phrases like I go makan, which means I'm going to eat, or don't play, don't make it lightly, are deeply embedded in local culture. Understanding these references requires knowledge of Malaysian cultural, such as food terms or local festivals, which enrich students' language experience. For the second one is cultural literacy. By teaching these expressions alongside standard English vocabulary, educators can help students develop cultural literacy that enhance their overall understanding of language use within their community. So, the influence of cultural on language varieties highlights the importance of teaching both linguistic skills and cultural literacy in Malaysian classroom. By embracing these varieties and acknowledging their significance within local context, educators can foster an environment that celebrates linguistic diversity while promoting proficiency in a standard form of English. Okay, so as for the conclusion for these main two ideas, so in conclusion, context plays a vital role in shaping language use and comprehension within educational settings. So, in Malaysian primary school classroom, specifically, both situational and cultural contexts significantly influence how English taught and learned. By recognizing the importance of these contexts through engaging storytelling methods that reflect local narrative or integrating culturally relevant activities, educators can create more effective learning environments that respect students' cultural identities while enhancing their language skills. The interplay between varieties of English and cultural influences underscores the need for an inclusive approach to language education, one that acknowledges local dialects while promoting proficiency in standard forms of English. They develop not only as the learners but also as global citizens capable of engaging meaningfully with diverse communities. Ultimately, fostering awareness around contextual factors empowers educators to cultivate classrooms where every student feels valued and equipped with the linguistic tools necessary for success both academically and socially within increasingly interconnected world. And as a future teacher, I recognize that the role of context in language education is paramount to fostering effective communication and understanding among students. So, in the Malaysia primary school classroom, both situational and cultural contexts are not just background elements, they are integral to the learning process. My experiences and observations have reinforced the idea that recognizing and incorporating these contexts that significantly enhance students' engagement and comprehension in learning English. So, how I'm going to embracing situational context. In my future classroom, I plan to create a dynamic learning environment that acknowledges the situational context of each lesson. Okay, this means by aware of the physical space, the resources available, and the diverse backgrounds of my students. So, as for an example, when teaching English vocabulary, I will incorporate local examples and scenarios that resonate with my students' everyday lives. So, by using familiar references such as local food, as I already mentioned, and also festivals or even common experiences, I can make lessons more relatable and engaging so that I can assure that the students won't feel bored or sleep in my class. So this approach not only aids comprehensions but also build a sense of community within the classroom. Additionally, I will strive adapt my teaching methods to suit various learning styles present in my classroom. And so, recognizing that students come from different educational backgrounds and possess varying levels of English proficiency, I will implement differentiated instruction strategies. By tailoring my approach to the situational context, I aim to create an inclusive atmosphere where every student feels supported in their language learning journey. So, how I'm going to acknowledging cultural context. So, the cultural context is equally essential in shaping how language is perceived and used. As a future educator in Malaysia's multicultural landscape, I understand that my students bring diverse cultural perspective into the classroom. This diversity is a strength that can enrich our discussion and learning experiences. I plan to incorporate culturally relevant materials into my curriculum, such as stories, songs, and poems from various Malaysian culture. This one is to highlight the beauty of our shared heritage while teaching. Moreover, I will emphasize the importance of cultural sensitivity in language use. For instance, when discussing greeting or expressions of politeness in English, I will draw parallels with local customs and practices. So this not only helps students to understand the nuances of English, but also foster the respect for different cultures. By creating lessons my students to become effective communicators in an increasingly globalized world. So, how am I going to prepare for future challenges? As I look forward my career as an educator, I'm aware of the challenges that lie ahead, such as integrating technology into my teaching methods and addressing varying levels of student engagement. So the as we all know, the COVID pandemic has accelerated changes into education, highlighting the need for adaptability and innovation in language teaching. I intend to embrace these changes by incorporating uh, digital tools that facilitate inter- interactive learning experiences while maintaining a strong emphasis on human interaction. For an example, utilizing online platform for collaborative projects can enhance communication skills while allowing students to connect with peers beyond their immediate environment. However, I will ensure that these technological tools complement rather than replace traditional teaching methods. The human element remains crucial. Fostering relationship with students will always be a priority. So, in conclusion, as a future teacher, I am committed to understanding and leveraging both situational and cultural contexts in my approach to language education. So, by creating an inclusive classroom environment that respects and celebrates diversity while promoting proficiency in English, I hope to empower my students not only as learners but also as a global citizens ready to engage meaningfully with world around them. So the fostering around the contextual factors will enable me to cultivate a classroom where my students feel valued and equipped, as I already mentioned, with the linguistic tools necessary for success and interconnected society. So, one of my primary goals as a future educator is to build strong relationship with my students. Establishing trust and rapport is essential for creating a safe space where students feel comfortable to express themselves in English. I plan to take the time to learn about each student's background, interest, and individual challenges. By doing so, I can tailor my teaching strategies to meet their unique needs, ensuring that they feel seen and heard. So, moreover, I will encourage open communication within the classroom, inviting students to share their thoughts, experiences, and cultural backgrounds. So, this dialogue will not only enrich our learning environment but also empower students to take ownership of their language learning journey. By fostering the sense of belonging, I hope to motivate my students to engage more active in their studies. By building strong relationship with my students, incorporating authentic materials, promoting, I aim to equip them with the skills that are necessary for success in an interconnected world. So my goal is to nurture confident communicators who appreciate the richness of diverse cultures while developing proficiency in English, a skill that serves them well throughout their life. So that's all from me. Thank you for listening to my speech. Thank you very much.